Snow pattered like sifted sugar over the gabled roofs of Nuremberg, dulling the bustle of the Kreiskindlesmarkt to a pleasant hush. Lena Müller exhaled into the frosty dusk and watched the plume of her breath dance with the rising steam from her lamp-working torch. Every year she set up her booth. Half-timber facade, green garlands, brass bells, in exactly the same corner of Hautmark Square, so customers could find her by the shimmering curtain of baubles that swayed in the lamplight like spun galaxies. Lena was 27, with nimble fingers and a temperament equal parts patience and impatience. Patience for the slow coaxing of molten glass, impatience with anything that threatened her craft's precision. She had inherited the trade from her grandfather Otto, who once told her, "Glass remembers every breath you take while shaping it, so mind what you breathe." Though he had passed away 3 winters earlier, his voice remained in her ears when she bent over the flame. On this Thursday evening, the square was thick with mulled wine fragrance, the brass band on the steps of Frauenkirch warming up on Leise Rieselt der Schnee. Tourists haggled for nutcrackers, gingerbread hearts and wax candles. Lena's neighbour, Herr Stein, roasted chestnuts, shouting "Heist und nachig" at passers-by. Behind Lena's booth, a narrow alley led toward the Pegnitz River, an easy shortcut for suppliers, couriers, and the occasional pickpocket. She settled onto her stool, slid a cobalt rod into the orange-blue cone of the torch, and let time fall away. The glass softened, sagged, glowed. With a practiced puff through a blowpipe, she formed a small sphere, turning and turning so gravity distributed the heat liquid evenly. She had promised herself a new design this Advent. Miniature mirrored orbs with faint silvering on the interior, so the world would halo around them as vague, dreamy reflections. She called them winter moons. While the first globe cooled in a vermiculite pan, someone cleared his throat. Lena looked up. A man in an English tweed coat, the collar pushed high against the cold, watched her with curious grey eyes. "Guten Abend," she said. "Good evening," he replied in careful German. "May I watch you work?" She nodded. "Always, but mind the heat." He leaned closer to the stall's edge, where strings of fairy lights cast prismatic streaks upon the snow. Lena took another rod clear this time, heated, blew, and, while the glass was still malleable, dabbed specks of silver nitrate inside. The metal fumed into wisps, coating the inner walls with a ghostly mirror sheen. She sealed the globe, flashed it in the flame to heal stress fractures, and held it up. Flickers of balls, lights, and faces shimmered across its curved skin. "It's like holding a crystal ball," the Englishman said. "People say that," Lena replied, "but it's only reflections." She set the sphere beside the others, then paused. Something odd glittered in the new ornament. Where she expected jeweled blur, she saw a tiny tableau, a figure crouched behind a booth, knife glinting, purse slung over one arm. For an instant, Lena thought it was a trick of the lights, but the image was sharp, not warped by the glass. The man's knitted cap and scarf were unmistakable. He was not in her line of sight. Her stall faced the square, yet the sphere showed a location behind her, in the alley. She jerked around. Nothing but crates and stacked hay bales. "You okay?" the Englishman asked. "Fine," she murmured, forcing a smile. She set the globe down gingerly. Minutes later the Englishman purchased 3 ornaments, thanked her, and vanished into the crowd. Lena's booth quieted. The silvered globe continued to wink at her still, displaying the crouching thief like a silent film on loop. She swallowed. Had she breathed wrong, pasting a hallucination into the glass? Her grandfather's warnings teased her memory. Glass remembers. Did it also foretell? At 9, when the market closed, Lena packed unsold pieces into cushioned boxes and carried them to the storage shed behind the booth. The alley was darker now, lit only by a single gas lamp flickering amber. Snowcats of wind prowled between the stalls. Lena hugged her coat tight. As she fumbled for the shed's padlock, a shuffling scrape made her freeze. A silhouette, cap and scarf matching the reflection, materialized 20 meters away. He hadn't noticed her yet. He crouched by a crate, prying it open with a knife, her Stein's cash box. She recognized its brass corners. Her pulse raced. The reflection had been warning her. The thief muttered, "Kake," as the lock stuck. The knife slipped, clanged. Before Lena could retreat, her boot crunched snow. He spun round. Their eyes met, his wide with surprise, hers with terror. Then he charged. Lena dropped the box of ornaments. The lid sprang, spheres rolling and shattering in sparkling eruptions. She grabbed the first thing her hand found, a blown glass candy cane, and thrust it forward like a dagger. It snapped between her fingers. The thief tackled her. They landed atop scattered shards. Pain stung her palms. The torch's smell clung to her coat. He clamped a gloved hand over her mouth. "Quiet," he hissed in accented German. Austrian, Swiss? Hard to tell. Lena wriggled, kicked. Her heels struck his shin. He yelped, loosened grip. Instinct propelled her to her knees. She snatched a chunk of broken ornament, jagged, star-like, and slashed. It sliced his cheek. Blood beaded black in the dim lamp. He cursed, shoved her aside, seized the fallen cash box, and dashed through the alley toward the river. Lena got up, breath ragged, palms bleeding. She cussed herself for leaving her phone inside the booth. She scrambled back, dialed the Polizei. While waiting, she scooped intact ornaments into a foam sleeve and caught sight of the winter moon. It no longer showed the theft. It now reflected her own frantic self, distorted by tears and lamplight. By the time officers arrived, the thief was gone. They took her statement, photographed wounds, the broken wares, the footprints that led to Pegnitz Bridge, and vanished in powdery drifts. Herr Stein arrived, furious at the loss of a day's takings. Lena, trembling, told him she'd tried to stop the robber. He softened, draped his heavy wool coat over her shoulders, and promised to cover any hospital bill. She waved off the offer, but allowed him to escort her to the emergency clinic, where a nurse picked glittering glass from her hands and stitched a cut. "You're lucky," the nurse remarked. "Another millimeter and a tendon's gone." Luck, Lena thought, seemed a fickle thing twisting fate into loops like molten glass. The next morning the market reopened as though nothing had happened. The city's maintenance crew swept away splinters and footprints. Lena's booth looked orderly, but she felt odd, as if her lungs held too much air. She set out fresh ornaments, brewed chamomile in a thermos, and tried to isolate the incident from the day. But the winter moon, she'd kept it alone of the batch, had not broken, lay in a velvet tray by her cash drawer. She couldn't bring herself to sell it. At 11, 2 plainclothes detectives arrived. Kommissar Erika Vogel introduced herself and her partner, Sergeant Marl. Vogel was brisk, in her 50s, hair grey and spiked like frost. "We found the cash box floating along the Pegnitz near Fleisch Bridge," she said. "Empty, of course. We'd like to know if you recall any distinguishing features." "Scar on his cheek now," Lena muttered. She described the man's build, accent, clothing. "We'll circulate," Vogel promised, but her doubtful tone suggested slim chances. After they left, Lena returned to the torch, hoping work would absorb her. She shaped another silvered sphere, identical process, steady breath. This one, too, caught an image. 2 figures arguing near the foot of the church, a boy and a middle-aged woman. The boy's hand slipped into the woman's purse, though she hadn't yet noticed. The scene was crisp, yet when Lena glanced up, the boy stood innocently by the pretzel stall, no purse in sight. Ice crawled her spine. The ornament was predicting crime. Her rational mind insisted the phenomenon was coincidence or trick reflection, perhaps echoing her anxieties. But practical observation argued otherwise. First image foretold theft, proven. Second image displayed something yet to happen. She watched the real plaza. 5 minutes later the boy drifted toward the woman, who rummaged for tissues. His movement was subtle, a brush of shoulders, fingers dipping. Lena surged from her stool, vaulted over boxes. "Entschuldigung," she shouted. The woman turned. The boy froze. He was caught before he withdrew the wallet. He bolted, but passers-by blocked him in confusion. Market security grabbed him. The woman, flustered, thanked Lena profusely. When officers escorted the pickpocket away, Lena returned to her booth, heart vibrating. She peered at the second ornament. The image had reverted to ordinary reflections. Could the glass be warning her, so she might prevent wrongdoing? But why her? Was it her craft, or her grandfather's whispered secrets? She closed early, carrying the winter moons to her apartment above a bakery on Weisgerbergasse. There she lined them on a windowsill, candles flickering behind to give depth. Each now mirrored simple room images. She waited, sipping schnapps, half dreading a new prophecy. None appeared. At midnight, she fell asleep on the sofa. A clang woke her at 3. Lena staggered to the window. In the ornament nearest the candle, a different scene unfurled. The Englishman from yesterday standing in a dim attic, holding her one-of-a-kind ruby glass star, stolen weeks ago from her grandfather's locked chest. She had never told anyone about the loss. In the sphere, the Englishman handed the star to the very same thief who mugged her, the fresh scar gleaming. Cash exchanged hands. Lena's blood roared. She checked the real window, only Sleeping City. The image persisted, repeating like silent theatre. So it wasn't just petty theft. There was conspiracy to acquire valuable artifacts, maybe a broader smuggling ring targeting artisan wares. And the ornament offered a location clue. The attic had an arched window with leaded panes shaped like a quatrefoil. She recognized that architecture. An abandoned guild hall on Tiergärtnertorplatz, shuttered since a fire. She could inform Kommissar Vogel, but would police believe her if she cited a crystal ball? She needed proof. Lena dressed, pocketed a utility knife, flashlight, phone, and, almost as an afterthought, slipped the prophetic ornament into her coat. Streets were empty but for municipal ploughs. Lena trudged along castle walls until the half-charred Guildhall loomed. Snow coated its steps. A broken padlock dangled. Someone had forced entry tonight. She crept inside. The scent of soot and mildew mingled with cold. Moonlight striped through holes in the roof. She climbed rickety stairs, guided by memory of the ornament's vantage. Voices drifted from above. English. "No scratches," the Englishman said. "Payment after delivery," replied the thief. Lena crouched behind a toppled wardrobe. Through a crack she saw them. Englishman's grey eyes glinting, cheek-scarred partner counting euros. Between them lay several of her rare pieces. The ruby star, a set of iridescent angels, and, to her shock, a cornelian glass chalice that had gone missing from the toy museum last week. Her phone camera could nab evidence, but must be closer. She inched forward, boards creaking. She froze. The thieves paused, scanning the darkness. Wind moaned through rafters. Distraction enough, they resumed. Lena breathed again, but her fingers, slick with sweat, fumbled. The prophetic sphere slid from her pocket, rolled and stopped against the wardrobe with a delicate clink. Both men turned. "Who's there?" Heart hammering, Lena snatched the orb, held it up. Candlelight from a surviving wall sconce refracted, casting a halo on the timber beams. Something uncanny happened. The glass intensified light, projecting the men's images tenfold across walls in silvery silhouettes, like ghosts. They gasped. "Grab her!" barked the thief. Lena hurled the ornament at his feet. It exploded, releasing a burst of white glare like magnesium flash. The men staggered, blinded. She bolted down the stairs, feet thundered behind. At the ground floor she tripped on rubble. The thief leapt, caught her coat. She twisted, freeing herself but tearing the seam. She sprinted toward the exit and collided with Kommissar Vogel and two officers flooding through the doorway, guns drawn. "Police!" Vogel shouted. The thief skidded, attempted retreat, but Mal grabbed him. The Englishman backtracked, hands up. Vogel glared at Lena. I'd ask what you're doing, Fräulein Müller, but first let's secure these bastards. Within minutes, both suspects were cuffed. Officers discovered more stolen artifacts in crates, delicate ivory carvings from Bamberg, antique pewter tankards, and a ledger listing buyers across Europe. A smuggling ring indeed. Outside, Vogel perched Lena on an ambulance bumper, wrapped a blanket round her. Snow sparkled under rotating blue lights. "How did you know to come here?" Lena asked. "The boy you tackled earlier finally talked," Vogel said. "Ha!" said a Skalman paid him to pickpocket at the market, "and deliver specific goods. Address pointed here. I didn't expect to find you storming the place." Lena considered whether to reveal the ornament's foresight. She opened her mouth, closed it. Would sound insane. Instead, she said, "I followed a hunch." "Hunch saved us paperwork," Vogel conceded. "And you recovered a missing museum chalice. Well done." Paramedics tended Lena's reopened palm cuts. Vogel walked off to supervise evidence collection. The Englishman, loaded into a patrol car, met Lena's gaze through frosted glass. No anger, just bafflement, perhaps at the flash of light he couldn't explain. Morning bled pink into the sky by the time Lena returned to her booth. She swept dusting snow from the counter, rehung garlands, and reached for a fresh rod. But she hesitated. The prophetic orb was gone, shards left on the attic floor. Was its magic singular, or did it reside in the method? The precise blend of breath, heat, and silver. Only one way to test. She ignited the torch. The flame fluttered, settled. Lena inserted a clear rod, heated until it glowed like sunrise, blew a sphere, seated it with silver mist. While it cooled, she waited, heart quick, eyes wide. The globe reflected normal sights, her face smudged with ash, Hairstein setting up chestnut grills, tourists sipping coffee. She felt relief and a pinch of disappointment. Perhaps the gift was spent. Purpose served. She set the ornament on display and attached a small paper tag. "Winter moon, see your world anew." A couple from Prague bought it within minutes. Lena watched them walk away, orb twinkling in the woman's mittened palm. She wondered if, should danger ever threaten them, the glass might stir once more. Across the square, Kommissar Vogel gave a brief press statement. 2 suspects in custody, stolen artifacts recovered. Investigation ongoing. Reporters scribbled. Lena caught Vogel's eye. The Kommissar tipped an invisible hat. That afternoon, the choir sang Stille Nacht. Snow fell soft as before, yet Lena perceived under the carols an echo low, humming, like fire in glass. Possibility? She imagined her grandfather nodding approval, murmuring, "Glass remembers, but sometimes it also warns." She unlocked a crimson rod, laid it in the flame, and began shaping tomorrow's moon, mindful of each breath she took, just in case the glass decided to speak again.